Hello and welcome to Cable's Conquest. I'm your co-host Curtis Hodgson, and we're here to talk about Marvel Crisis Protocol.
The name's Cable. Remember it.
That's right, we are back with another episode of Cable's Conquest. Sadly, Cable will not be joining this conquest as I head solo to the Sons of War event in Cambridge. I'm attending this event about a month before WTC, the World Team Championships, and the event is being hosted by one of my WTC teammates, David Miller. In attendance with me is going to be two more of my teammates, so the idea is that this is going to be a really good chance for most of the team to practice our rosters ahead of roster submission in a couple of weeks' time. The Sons of War is a gaming club based in Cambridge. They've been running for several years now, I think Dave was telling me, and they welcome all manner of gaming systems. But MCP has been a real growth game for them. I think this is their third event, but it's the first that I'm going to be attending, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think Archie attended their second event, came back with absolutely glowing reviews. I think he did okay on the tabletop at that event, but it was really an event that he was desperate to come back to. Unfortunately, he's on holiday. I think he's enjoying some sunshine, or potentially trying to get the painting finished on his roster ahead of the WTC. I think there's about 24 players in attendance, which for their third event, that's really good numbers for a day where you want to try new things, test your roster out. I think looking at the Longshanks ahead of the event, there's a really good mixture of those who are newer to the game, as well as some of the strongest players of the UK community. Certainly the strongest players outside of London. So it's going to be a really good test ahead of one of the biggest events in the Marvel Crisis Protocol calendar. I will say that this is being recorded before the WTC, but it's likely that you'll be listening afterwards. So hopefully you'll already be aware of the fruits of my labour and whether this practice has been worthwhile or whether it's meant nothing and I've gone off to Copenhagen and lost all my games. But fingers crossed, this is going to be a really good test. So without further ado, before I jump in the car and head up to the M11...
You're boring me. If you want to help me nail him, get your team together and let's get started.
So, my roster contains, starting with the 4 threats, I've got Wolverine, Colossus, and Psylocke. Then I've got some 3 threats in Beast, the Blob, Magic, Iceman, Gambit. I've got a 2 threat in Toad. And now, if it wasn't already obvious, my final model is Apocalypse himself. Yes, I am going to be that guy, and I'm taking along Servants of the Apocalypse. I'll move on to my tactics cards. I'm bringing in this roster Immortal Servants. For the first one, Brace for Impact, Sacrifice, Recalibration Matrix, Journey Through Limbo, Psionic Constructs, Weapon X Program, Warpath, and Survival. My secures are Mutant Madmen, Guardian Save Shia Empress, Macran Crystal gets Heroes Home, and then my extracts are Fear Grips World as Worthy Terrorized Cities, aka Hammers, the Montesi Formula, and Skrulls Infiltrate World Leadership, or Skrulls as it's commonly known. So yes, I'm going to be taking along Servants of the Apocalypse, and I won't go into too much detail here because there's lots of decisions that can be made when it comes to building an Apocalypse roster, but I imagine you've probably already heard a lot of that, or if you haven't already heard a lot of it, there will be an episode where I'll talk through my preparation to BTC with Archie and the other team members, and I'll talk in more detail there. I suppose a few things that I want to mention is what I'm using this event for. I'm largely using this event as a bit of a test. Another member of our team, Harry, he is going to be taking X-Force. So, for a long time, we thought that our team was not going to be compatible with bringing Servants of the Apocalypse, with, some of the key models in Servants of the Apocalypse also affiliated in X-Force, specifically the likes of Colossus, Psylocke, Wolverine, Cable himself, and even Honey Badger and Deadpool. So, a lot of the options that Servants of Apocalypse has. When actually we sat down, I think this was post-Nations, we sat down to sort of rethink what our strategy was as a team. We actually realized that, some of the characters that Harry was using in his X-Force, it actually left a lot of options open. Unfortunately, Deadpool was not an option to me. He's a key part of Harry's roster. But actually, since the buffs to Gambit, I don't really think that I need Deadpool. I think Gambit and Magic, of course, another character who got a recent buff. Both of them sort of play that sort of more relatively mobile, killing, damage output character, 3 threat that Deadpool often does. Deadpool can be the famine or war. Of course, Magic is an excellent war. Iceman and the Blob can both be fairly effective famines that sort of can play on different styles of map. So I don't really feel like I'm missing Deadpool. The other thing about Servants of Apocalypse is they absolutely adore playing as many 3 threats as possible. So 18 threat is fantastic. You get Apocalypse and 4 3 threats. But above that, at 19 and 20 threat, you can upgrade them. Hence, you bring the 4 threats along. Luckily, Psylocke was available for me. Fortunately, Harry was willing to give up Colossus, both of whom I really, really like in its Apocalypse roster. And were nailed on for me. I really, really like Psylocke as Death, if you can upgrade the likes of Gambit into Psylocke at those higher threats. Similarly, I'd really like Colossus as either War or Pestilence, depending on whether you need multiple tanky characters. Then you can bring Colossus and Beast, Colossus taking the War role and Beast taking the Pestilence role. Or if you don't need so many tanky characters, Colossus can come in and still be a really, really good Pestilence, freeing up the likes of Magic to be War. So I really like Colossus. For me, I think those 9 characters are the most common on the table. I've had a fair few practice games now, and really it's down to who that 10th character is. I've had a lot of games with Sabretooth. I've seen players online playing Sabretooth as Pestilence, and I've put that into practice, and actually I quite like it. I think when Sabretooth comes, he does a role, but I didn't want to sort of lock that position down. And recently, Harry has dropped Wolverine from his roster. I think he was realizing that he didn't have space for a bit of a slot machine. And I've seen other players, Apocalypse players, bringing Wolverine. So I brought Wolverine along as my 10th character, and this event really is a bit of an audition for him. Ultimately, if the threat arises, do I feel like Wolverine is the right character? Sometimes I might force that, but if actually I feel like, after 4 games there was never an opportunity to bring Wolverine, then actually that might make my decision for me. And then also I'm sort of testing out the crises. I want to be playing pay to flips. Macron is one which is one I really like with Servants of the Apocalypse, but actually it plays into the hands of a lot of the attrition sides that can probably do a lot of damage to Apocalypse. So being tested, I like the 19 threats. It allows me to play 3 threats and upgrade one of them to a 4 threat. And I like the box shape with the pay to flips. But I am aware that it could be handing some attrition sides a useful crisis for them. Likewise, I put Montesi in. And Montesi might feel a bit too slow for an Apocalypse side. They can deal damage and they can score. But actually, the reason I like Montesi is 18 threat. And a lot of the other extracts that aren't civilians, thinking of you, Inhumans, most of them are 17 threat. There are so many 17 threats in the game now. And ultimately, I'm trying to avoid that because it means I have to relegate one of my 3s into a 2, Toad. And Toad, I just find quite vulnerable now, especially if you don't have priority. So you can't dictate which extract he picks up. Often it leaves Toad quite exposed, and he just becomes a bit of a liability. And if he doesn't pick up that extract, or if he dies round 1, he does very little for the rest of the game, and you're playing 2 threat down. So I'm trying to avoid 17 threat where possible. So all of my extracts, there isn't a 17 threat there. If I lose priority and they want to avoid my pay to flips, then I can make sure I can play 18 threat up above. In fact, 2 of them are 18 threat, which is a real sweet spot. And then Skrulls I quite like. I know it's a civilian, so I can get punished on it, but I can also punish my opponents, whether if they get pushed. Also, I've got lots of characters who can safely pick up that first, the closest Skrull to you, and still get a move back to safety if they do get pushed. So that's the thinking. That's the tests that are going on. So let's see how we get on in round 1.
We're not retreating. It's victory or death.
Hello, my name's Oliver. I'm playing a Defenders and Convocation duelist today.
Hi, Oliver. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
We're here at the Sons of War event up in Cambridge. We've just played our first round. You were my opponents. Talk me a little bit about your Convocation roster and the thinking behind it and what you were hoping to achieve from today.
My thinking behind it is it's just a little bit fun. I have both Strangers, and I really like OG Strange Defenders, but he has just really bad matchups, and I think the Convocation side helps with that. They have a lot of cool tricks to help with displacement, and Oba Vagamoto is in my list as well, which is a range 2 place, which is great when I want to play OG Strange in Convocation, but Sexy Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, is just a better Strange when I want to play Convocation.
Absolutely.
So I think it's fun because I like playing Doctor Strange, both of them. And I just picked Weird Crisis, and hopefully it gives people a headache when they're looking at what I'm doing.
Nice. Yeah, well, I think quite a lot of the time, if you can put the cognitive burden on your opponent, you can take advantage of that. And actually, the more they're thinking, the less you probably have to think, and you can respond. And is that the thinking?
Yeah, hopefully. I think the Crisis I picked just each present a very different challenge. And because I have obviously thought about what I'm going to do in each of those circumstances, maybe my opponent has not.
Right.
It requires me to roll.
So I've come up against you in round 1.
Yeah.
I have brought...
Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I've brought a pretty nasty Servants of Apocalypse roster. I must say, actually, Oliver, you're on my WTC team, aren't you?
I am. I have the privilege of
absolutely. And are you practicing for WTC? I'm certainly practicing for WTC.
I'm practicing for WTC, yeah. I was thinking I was going to play Defenders with Daredevil and Doctor Strange, but my confidence in Daredevil is just so low at the minute. I think there's a lot of stuff that...
You got a little bit of time to get your reps in with Doctor Strange and Convocation and see how it goes.
Yeah.
When you saw Servants of Apocalypse across the table from you, what was your thinking? What were you hoping to get from the game? And, did you have any strategies going into it? Yeah, so I know they don't have too much displacement. So I was like, I don't think I need the Convocation side. And also you can just pick on Apocalypse, just dunks on my Convocation model. So I felt pretty safe taking Strange. I knew he was going to eat a Journey Through Limbo at some point, but you just have to suck that up. And I thought if I can hex the characters enough early, the little models that kill really well, like Magic, Gambit, who didn't end up playing, they kind of get capped out, of course, which maybe I can withstand with some martial artists and stuff like that. Okay. And some of your characters as well, a lot of them are counting blanks. So some of these big dice pools, they can hopefully survive. Like you say, you've got other sort of movement shenanigans as well.
Yeah, that's basically the core of the list is you help martial artists survive.
Give them extra dice, count more blanks, stop their crits and stuff. It feels quite powerful. I was really unsure what to think of it. I've not faced up against this new Strange. This is the first time I've faced up against it. We rolled priority. I got the pleasure of winning priority, and I went with my secures, and we drew Guardians. Save Shield.
I actually don't hate that one.
No, it's one of these box pay to flips. It's 17 threat. It's slightly narrower than the likes of Infinity Formula and Mutant Madmen, but not quite as narrow as Emkron. And we went with your extracts. Which extract did we get?
We got Scientific Samples, which is the one where if you roll a skull, you get a power, and if you have all your models with extracts within 2, you get an extra VP.
Great, and it's a D shape as well, isn't it?
It's like a little B.
The
extract,
the extract is a D. So, and then there's 4 of them. They're spread out, but you gain an extra VP, like you've just said.
Yes.
If all your extract holders are within 2 of the secure. This one is in your roster. What's the thing? Why does it work for you?
Strange loves it, right? Because he picks one up and then he's getting the power he does for damage and a power for shield and a power for the skull.
Right.
And then you just fund his whole kit.
He's almost like he's already got he's soul stone without paying for it, right?
The extra VP does hurt a little bit, but in theory, Strange is also good at just pushing people off the points to deny that. I think that's a good extra. I also like playing at 17 as well.
And we didn't have a choice today, did we? We didn't have a choice. And I don't like 17 in my Apocalypse. I've had a lot of games now at 17.
I know you have told me you don't like playing Toad anymore. So I was quite glad to see 17 come up.
I really don't like playing Toad. And if I want all 4 of my horsemen at 17, I have to play Toad. Otherwise, I'm playing a horseman down.
I don't you would do, right?
Which, no, it's especially when I've got priority. And that's exactly what I did. I brought, of course, the Master himself. I brought Beast along as my Pestilence. I brought Magic as my war. I brought Toad, of course, as my death. And My final character was Iceman as my famine.
I was surprised to see Iceman. I thought he would be Gambit, because Gambit can be famine as well, right?
Gambit can be famine, yes.
Yeah,
famine or
I
death.
thought I'd see him, but I think Iceman was pretty good, actually.
I like Iceman's ability to rotate. He's got, because he's freeze and fades, he can do an attack that can give him power, and if he's already got some power, that can get him out of there or move him on to. You've got to pay to flip. That's sort of that boxy shape. His medium base, medium move. It means he can sort of run around, and he's just a nuisance. He can sit on a pace flip. People have got to get close to him to try and flip it, and he hands out then the slows and the damages.
To rotate as
exactly,
well.
And that's really what I'm trying to achieve with Iceman. He's come in a lot of games. And who did you bring?
So I brought Doctor Strange, original Doctor Strange. I brought Shang-Chi. I brought Iron Fist, Man-Thing, and Wong.
Excellent. Okay. And I'd never faced up against the leadership. It's only my second time facing up against Man-Thing. So
I love Man-Thing. I've been playing a lot of him recently, and I think he's good. I think if he takes damage early or he has like an early big spike, he just is really good for the whole game. He struggled in this one because he got poison really early.
Yeah.
Poison and shock, actually. Which then he's rolling 4 dice and he's just not fun in his kit at all.
Absolutely. And that sort of foreshadows that first turn that we had. I have priority. I move up the board. I pick up with Toad.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky because one of the midline samples.
Wonderful size 4.
Exactly. Size 4. And he can be within range 2 of the sample, but behind the building.
Yeah.
So he feels fairly safe. He goes and picks up that. And you send Man-Thing to go pick up the other one.
Yeah, I don't mind Man-Thing for a midline grab. Like, he was looking at Apocalypse. But like Apocalypse is getting 1 attack into him. You can't exploit crits against Man-Thing, so you're capped at the amount of damage.
Yeah, the dice roll, absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, he ended the turn 1 with only 1 damage on him. Yeah. Because you were able to, I wasn't able to daze him straight away, and you were able to instant recovery, a great card for Man-Thing, I think, particularly if he's holding that extract. And he felt safe. But I did get the poison on him with Beast, and I did get the shock on him.
And Root.
So he felt, he was a bit hamstrung at that point, or at least I think the route might have come in the next round, but either way he had a lot of conditions on him. But you went 4-3 up at the end of round 1. I failed to flip one of my points.
I was feeling okay after the end of round 1 because you dived with Beast to get the conditions out, which I think was the right call, and then Shang-Chi dazed Beast because I put him a powered 1 and he could charge him. So I was like, you've got a dazed character, we're level on points, so you failed the path, so I was ahead. I was feeling okay after round 1.
I was a bit worried. I thought, well, Beast's probably not going to last much longer.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be a character down, and being a character down on pay to flips, usually the recipe for disaster.
Yeah, especially Beast, who is so good at pay to flips.
Exactly. He's got, he loves rolling the skulls on them. He's really mobile.
Throws people off and makes it easy.
Exactly. And of course, the conditions as well, once he's on them. If you've got groups upon them, it can be really devastating. But then something happened, turn 2, turn 3. I sort of pushed into the side where you had Doctor Strange.
Yeah. So I think my turn 2 started with Doctor Strange doing 2 attacks into magic. Did like 4 damage on the first one, give her the hex, and I'm thinking, okay, if I can daze magic, then that's just Iceman that him and I just have to deal with, and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely biffed it. And all I'd done is powered magic up.
Just powered magic up from that first attack. Absolutely. And she was able to, because you'd moved her off, but she was able to limbo step in.
Yeah.
She tried to punch Doctor Strange, but instead you Heroes for Hire it into Iron Fist. Yeah. He took a whopping, he took like 4 damage from it.
And I think this was one of my biggest mistakes. I think I used Heroes for Hire way too early. I should, foreshadowing, but I should have saved that for a moment that would have been more vital later. Yeah. I probably just should have taken it on Strange.
Then it gave the damage into him because he's not counting blanks against the Mystic.
No.
Also enabled magic to journey through limbo. Strange.
And here was your masterstroke, Curtis, because I was thinking Strange is going to get limbo stepped into nowhere, and I'm going to. That's basically.
And that's annoying, right? It's a stagger, yes.
I was like, cool. Well, I know I was going to eat it because I knew you were going to play that. Fine. But he goes the other way.
Yeah, I threw him right into the center of the table.
And all of a sudden, Strange is looking at Apocalypse and is not feeling so good.
He's within 3 of Apocalypse, and not within 2 of any of his mates. So you've used Heroes for Hire.
Yeah.
You've not used Sacrifice.
Yeah.
And this essentially nullifies it, right? And he's got Incinerate on him. So Apocalypse is able to double tap him that round, get the daze, take his extract off of him.
Yeah.
And then I've still got priority because, of course...
Because Magic still got an activation after Strange.
Of course.
Or maybe I daze somebody? I can't remember, but... Yeah, you got priority, which was bad news.
And it meant Apocalypse could then just use his 2 attacks, and it took 2 attacks again, and both times 2 damage and then created to end, which gave me 9 dice to then just finish him off.
And Strange has a big health pool, like 7 dice is not 7 health is not bad, and he can obviously buff his defenses and can reroll all. But I think I had a couple where I had one.
You just blocked his one on I think on the final one. I needed to do 5 damage.
Save me and blocked one again. Yeah.
Exactly. And I spent my reroll, so like he was dead from the first roll, so you needed to block 2, I think, from the 5 dice on rerolling everything, and you still only blocked 1, and it was perfect. And he went down. And from there, would you say it was a bit of an uphill struggle playing without your 5-threat leader?
Yeah, because Strange is so good at moving people around, and he's basically like a big 5-threat support piece. And if your like Surviving Fist and Shang are not been supported, they don't feel so good. They need their dad to help them.
And it was a bit of catch up as well. Beast, when he'd gone, he'd thrown Shang-Chi away, and he'd run away. So he was able to sort of stay safe the rest of the game. Iceman did something similar. I think he was maybe the one that got dazed, which gave me priority back.
Potentially.
And but I think Shang-Chi just absolutely obliterated him once he'd moved across.
Shang-Chi had a really good game. It was just kind of too little too late.
Yeah, and he was the only one really swinging punches, unfortunately.
Iron Fist kind of didn't really do it. Well, you had a great sacrifice where you stopped the Iron Fist attack from not giving Iceman an activation.
Yep.
And I probably didn't read that as well as I should have done. And then, the only time where I didn't need him to fluff, he was the last round where he fed Magic enough power to move and limit stuff onto a point.
And the game ended up, you still reached your 16 points, but unfortunately it was 20-16. I think going into the final round, it was 14-10.
I think it was,
So you did have a really good final round, but with the additional VP from being close to the points, the points were essentially even in that final round, and it was enough for me to just...
And before the final round, I think I still had a win condition, which required Shang-Chi to do a load of work. But Shang-Chi one-shot Toad, which that's going to happen, he's threat. And then I did my attack into Magic, and like as the dice lay, it KO'd Magic.
Absolutely.
And then... flip the recal card.
It's amazing because you often try and save those cards for Apocalypse. You would just almost try to ignore Apocalypse. And I was able to use Sacrifice in a position that, with nothing to do with Apocalypse. And then I was able to use Recal in a position which had nothing to do with Apocalypse. And actually, both those cards saved my bacon.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think I have no choice but to ignore Apocalypse. I don't have in this list the kind of attacks that you need to put in.
You need large dice pools, right? You need good, efficient attacks.
Yeah, you need like a Jane or someone like that who's rolling a lot of dice.
And throw stuff into him. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have any on, so...
Thank you so much for the game, Oliver. And thank you so much for speaking with me afterwards. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, good luck in the rest of the event.
Thank you, you too.
Cheers.
And that was my first round with Oliver. So pretty pleased to get the win. And I'm really, really pleased to get a game with Oliver. Like we said in the interview, we're teammates heading into WTC. And in our preparations, we've been talking at length about Oliver wanting to get a practice game into Apocalypse. So hopefully he was able to get that from it. I was certainly able to get a lot from it as well. I think I was really pleased with how I played in this one. It was really, really good practice, a really, really good round one. Oliver's an excellent opponent, and it was a good game. Onwards we go, and we go into round 2.
Hi, I'm Matthias. We just played our second game of the tournament. I played Inhumans under Maximus' leadership and got absolutely clobbered by Apocalypse by round 3.
It was a bit of a bloodbath, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We'll save the juicy details for towards the end. So yes, you've brought Inhumans to this event. Well, firstly, thank you very much for coming on to Cable's Conquest. It's a pleasure to have you, Matthias. And it's even more of a pleasure because on Cable's Conquest, we love both the hobby side and the gaming side. And you take the hobby side to its nth degree with some of the most fantastic conversions that I've ever seen. I think the last time you played your Black Order, which are all based under the sea. So a lot of listeners might have seen those, doing the rounds on social media. This is a little bit different. You're with your Inhumans. What's the thinking? And give us a brief description to what the plan was for your Inhumans.
Basically, the plan started when I was on vacation with my wife in Vienna, and we saw the Inhuman Royal Court box on a shelf in one of the stores. I'm like, I haven't done them yet. I might want to convert them in some way. What should we do? And we were also watching the Falcon musical, which, if you know the Rock Me Amadeus music video, is with these outrageous high wigs and all sorts of strange colors. And she said, like, do it Rococo. And I went, okay, then
challenge accepted.
Yeah. So I basically looked which Inhuman characters I didn't have yet, which was basically everything except for Ronin, Quicksilver, and Beast. And so I got them all together, converted them with mainly Carnival a bit, and sort of created a scenario where Beast is reading a history book about the history of the Inhumans and
Amazing.
the episode behind it to justify having 2 Black Bolts in the whole display. There has been an imposter king, obviously orchestrated by Maximus, and the rightful king, who has been in a sort of Man in the Iron Mask situation, is bursting back into the throne room to reclaim his throne. And yeah, so I've been on the lookout for a lot of bits for quite some time, like also little ornate picture frame. So that one's going to go to the London GT.
People who are going to the London GT, please do look out for this, because it's incredible. I can't really do it justice with words, because the display board too, which unfortunately that's not come with you today, has it? The display board, but it's done the rounds on social media, and it's like, it almost looks like a chessboard, and the characters, their conversions on the models sort of, they're not just fitting this theme that you've gone with, but they are immersed within the display board as well. You've got characters bursting out of walls. You've got pieces of the floor within their base, and it's just the whole thing just sings. And the fact that it's also a operational roster that you can take to an event like we are here today is another credit to yourself as a hobbyist. So well done.
Thank you. So sort of operational, because of the restrictions in affiliation, I had to forgo having a 2 in my roster. So that's been
really interesting.
That's made things a bit more challenging. But since I'm playing Maximus, I'm fully leaning into the chaos anyway.
Yes, and you've got available to you 3 leaders, haven't you? You've got you had Maximus, which you played in our game. You've got the original Black Bolt, who's there. You also bring King Black Bolts, so you can't be playing those at the same time. Then you have Medusa. And do you have the tactics card for Medusa's leadership?
Haven't tried her out yet, but I was looking for something that was a bit more squishy, and I saw Apocalypse across the table and went, there goes that plan.
There goes that plan. So you stuck with Maximus. I've never played against Maximus's leadership.
How did you find him?
I think the chaos and embracing the chaos is exactly correct, because the reroll being compulsory on the first time you roll dice, attacking or defending, means that you could roll all successes and you still have to re-roll. Great if you roll if you roll rubbish and you need that extra re-roll, fantastic. And then rolling the skull, which didn't come up in our game, but I imagine you talked in your previous game, it came up quite a lot. Yeah, Maximus gains a power, but then your opponent gets to place those characters, and obviously if they're choosing where they're going, again, it's just more chaos. And on a skull, you can't predict it, so it's absolutely embracing the chaos. We rolled priority, didn't we?
Yes, and you won that one.
And I won that one. I'm on a bit of a streak. Game 1 was also a winning priority, and it is very helpful. And we drew My Secure. I went with My Secures. While I was frightened of Terrigenesis, and for listeners who aren't familiar, Terrigenesis is a Inhumans tactics card. But why don't you tell us what it does?
Oh dear, putting me on the spot there. Because now I'm trying to recall, I think it's 2 or 3 energy and can be used on an enemy character that is holding a civilian extract token.
Correct, yes.
And you roll 4 dice, and on the usual suspects, that character takes a damage, and if it gets dazed or KO'd by that, you score 2 victory points, which is exactly what won me my first game in this tournament.
Wow. So it's an incredibly powerful card.
Yeah.
I mean, if they've got a civilian token, and they're dazing, not only are you getting those 2 VPs from the card, but you're probably getting the VP from taking their extract as well. And if they're dazing, great, they might be on a secure that you suddenly have as well. So I've been done by it before, and I've heard all the chat online, and I was nervous of it. But I was more nervous because in your secures was Deadline to Destruction, 16 threats. And I was in Apocalypse. He can't get all his horsemen out at 16 threats, and I don't even really like 17 threats. And I saw you had 2 17 threats in your extracts, which again I wasn't a fan of. But I wanted to avoid that 16 threat in particular. So I went with My Secures, and I was chuffed to bits when I got 19 threat Macron crystals. But then we drew Unexpected Wedding Guests, didn't we? Which was 17 threats. Which threat did you choose, 17 or 19?
I chose 17 for exactly that reason, because I thought, let's make it a bit awkward for all the big hitters to come out.
Absolutely. Like, 18 threat is perfect. I get all my 3 threats. And then from then onwards, 19 and 20, those 3 threats get upgraded into 4 threats. Anything below that, and Toad can be a bit of a liability these days. Yeah, I'm having to play with my weaker character. So I think you absolutely did the right thing there. With priority, of course, we've got extracts. 2 are sort of close to my deployment, 2 are close to yours. I move, and actually with Toad, I pinch one of yours. I sort of see that a lot of your big hitters, it's just Medusa threatening that side, and your big hitters are sort of on the other side, potentially threatening mine. And I go with Toad, and I steal yours. What did you think when I did that? Do you feel like, oh, that's great?
Well, I think you actually went into the side that could dole out a bit more damage because Gorgon and Maximus were on your right side and King Black Bolt and Medusa were on your left side, which is where you went down with Toad. So I tried to hassle him with Medusa as soon as possible.
Of course.
But, well, I tried to do a braid bash into Toad, who just shrugged it off like it was nothing.
Shrugged it off like it's nothing. And then I think King Black Bolt came in and did exactly 2 damage.
Yeah, I think he did exactly what he needed to. No, that was turn 2.
It was exactly what he needed for Toad to then slippery away.
Oh, yeah.
And I think at the end of round 1, I had 3 characters gaining extra power on their points, and I got that extract lead. From then on, you still had priority. How did you feel? You know, what was your strategy from that point where your points down, but you had priority up against Apocalypse?
Problem was I had absolutely underestimated how mobile Apocalypse himself is, because one of my plans was to park Maximus on a spot where he's still doing some good, but sort of out of the way. And all of a sudden, at the end of turn 1, he found himself face to face with Apocalypse, who just greeted him by hitting him in the face. So that was a bit scary. And I think you dazed him by the end of turn 2.
I think right at the top of turn 2, I think I got the daze. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, there was this, like, probably it was a size 3, maybe it was size 4, but it was quite flat. It was like the Dormammu base terrain. And you did the right thing. You plonked him right in behind it because he couldn't be seen behind it. In the way the MCP rules work, he couldn't be seen. But Apocalypse, because it was so wide, was able to move and then place himself with Vanishing to Dust. And then suddenly he can see anything behind it. And yet he, you know, with 2 physical defense and Apocalypse being able to choose which dice, he didn't daze him straight away, but top of round 2, he was able to finish him off.
Yeah. The other thing was you went 5 wide, I went 4 wide, and after the game you asked me about the experience of being 4 wide, and I told you my reasoning was I need something that can sort of survive being hit by all these freight trains that I put onto the table, and that meant losing a warm body to try and flip some points. And I think that came in the most at the end of turn 2, where you were holding 3 points, I think, and I was holding 1 point. And I could have moved my last activation off that 1 point I was holding to try and flip the other, but you still had beasts ready to go and just swoop in. And we were paying, of course, a pay to flip that is dependent on how many people are contesting. So I could have either stood there like an idiot and tried to bonk Apocalypse with my little stick there, which went absolutely great, I have to say.
Yeah.
And at least have that point locked down, or I can trade that for the chance to flip a point, which will absolutely be negated by Beast swooping in and just doing it 100%.
No, you're absolutely right. Apocalypse's ability to rotate is quite well known, but also I think I accidentally, because I was fully expecting you to come up with the original Black Bolt, and I brought characters that I thought could survive him as much as possible. But in doing that, I ended up bringing some fairly tanky mobile characters in the likes of Beast with his rerolls, even Blob with his damage reduction took a bit more punches than I imagine you were hoping for, being beaten up by King Black Bolt and Medusa, and then just the firepower that was Gambit and Apocalypse.
Oh yeah. We need to talk about Gambit.
Gambit was a bit silly, wasn't he? I mean, if listeners aren't aware, he's had a recent buff, which means he now counts practically any time he rolls dice, attack, defense, dodges, his wilds count for 2. And he rolled a 4 dice attack into Gorgon.
Yep.
What did we see? Was it 3 wilds and a hit?
3 wilds and a hit, yeah.
And
so 7 damage
from 4 dice, which is gross. And he had 1 power on him, so he could have turned that hit into another wild if he needed to, which was absolutely gross. Like Gorgon's okay. You know, he's got average dice, but with the reroll and his health pool for a 3 threat, you'd expect him to take 2 attacks at least.
Yeah.
It just finished him off, didn't it? And it enabled Gambit to then play aggressive and scenario at the same time. He then tried an attack into Medusa, which completely bounced off.
Yeah.
But that's absolutely fine because he'd already done what he needed to do with Gorgon, and that was sort of a little bit the story of the game, right?
Yeah. And it's also very on brand for him to be absolutely killing it in one attack and then just doing nothing the other, because he is a luck-based character by law. So
completely, he's got such high ceilings, as we saw. I mean, actually, he still rolled pretty well into Medusa, but Medusa managed to sort of roll well herself. So yeah, I think he really got the rub of the green in that one. And yes, with the mobility and the pay to flips, that extra character, it sadly wasn't quite enough for the Inhumans, and it ended 17-7. Are there any final reflections you've got on the game?
My only reflection so far is I need to get a grip on Apocalypse, because all my Apocalypse games so far, I think I've told you before, is like going in there, then emerging half an hour later with very little memory of what has transpired, but feeling like, I don't know, Swedish Muscle just went to town on every muscle in your body.
No, absolutely. I mean, he has so many tools between the horseman and himself. That balance between being able to punch you and being able to play scenario, he hits quite a sweet spot. And yes, you can come out of there thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not really sure how I was violated, but I know for sure I was violated.
Show me on the door. I can't.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I'm sure, maybe. But thank you so much for the game, Mateus.
Thank you.
And you're on 1 win, 1 loss. Good luck in your next round. Hopefully you can make it positive for the day.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. And there we are, my round 2 game against Mateus, who is a local London player who travelled up with Dr. Norbert. So it was, I think we've only had 1 game in the past, so it was really great to get to play Mateus. He'd had a good round 1 where he'd used Terragenesis to snatch the win. And I've got to say, I've played Inhumans a few times since they've become the meta monsters that they are, and I have to say my success rate is really, really poor on this one. So I was really pleased to manage to get the win. It was completely different Inhumans to what I was expecting. I was expecting, of course, the original Black Bolt with the new pieces in Karnak and Gorgon, and all the sort of shenanigans that lot can do. But Mateus is, I mean, he's got an absolutely beautiful theme as we discussed in the interview, and his Instagram, which has all of his conversions on it, we'll put a link into the show notes, because a real pleasure to get to play some of these pieces. Is King Black Bolt in particular, sort of bursting through the wall is incredible, and it was interesting to see these new characters. I've never played against Maximus's leadership before. I think it's the first time I've played against King Black Bolt as well. And after lunch, we'll head into round 3.
Hi, I'm Joe Hainstock, or Joe Manji on the internet, and I'm playing Curtis today, and it was a wonderful pleasure.
Oh, thank you very much. And what team are you playing?
I've got Brotherhood, so I've got both leaders, Mystique and Magneto, but we played Mystique in this game.
Excellent. Well, welcome to Cable's Conquests. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Long-time listener. Pleasure to be on.
First-time caller. We are here at the Sons of War event up in Cambridge, round 3. It's clearly gone well. For me at least, to be facing the infamous Joe Manji in round 3. Shame it wasn't a final. I don't mind losing finals. Won't spoil anything too much. But a big surprise to me when you turned up at the table was that you weren't playing Inhumans.
Yep. The
last time we met was at a tournament at Bad Moon, and we met round 1, and you were playing Inhumans. You said, I'm practicing for WTC.
Indeed.
Yesterday, you went to a Bad Moon event. Similarly, you were running Inhumans.
Yes.
But today you're running Brotherhood. Talk me through why you chose Brotherhood today.
It's mainly because I wanted to enjoy playing Marvel. I've got to practice Inhumans, and I've got to set myself a little quota for a number of games to play before WTC. So I hit that yesterday with the Bad Moon event. So I got to play for fun today.
Oh, brilliant. And is Brotherhood a fun roster for you?
I love it. Yeah, they're great fun. I think people are really down on Mystique, but I think she's fine, pretty good still, and the leadership's really fun. Like being able to put little token down and run away and stuff. It opens lots of really cool opportunities, steal points off people. You can get like a 3-point swing sometimes if you push off on a point and then double move with Juggernaut and stuff like that.
Of course. And actually, just before we started recording, you mentioned that Mystique Brotherhood is one of the best at rotating in the game.
Yeah.
Do you think with the crisis changes that have happened, obviously we've lost those central secures, and actually a lot of the secures look fairly similar shape-wise.
Yeah.
Is that benefited Mystique?
I think she's great on them. They kept all of the ones she likes, like the D shapes, and they added some new ones in, like Deadline maybe. There's a lot more pay to flips in the game, so she doesn't like that so much.
Right, okay. Because she can't place a token down, is that right?
Yeah, she basically doesn't have a leadership on pay to flips.
Right. Okay.
She's not actually that bad. I don't mind her because the good thing about being a good rotation team is you can rotate well on pay to flips as well.
Right.
So I've played lots of games where I had Quicksilver in previous lists, so I've got Quicksilver, Zemo, Mystique, 3 long movers, and then Juggernaut and Rhino, who just go really, really fast.
Yeah, they might as well be long movers, right? With the amount they move across the board.
Exactly. So you can get around the points so quickly that it's fine. They're a really good pay-to-flip team without a leadership, effectively. And so, that's fine. Lots of teams have good leadership, but not perfect models. But yeah,
sure. But they've got all the right pieces. And I noticed, we talked actually just slightly before the event, you're almost fully affiliated. You've got 8 Brotherhood characters in the roster and 2 unaffiliated in Rhino and Zemo.
Indeed.
Do they come every game?
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, they're very common. Not every game. It depends. At 17 they do, but other like at 19 or 17, I usually play 5 affiliated models and one the 6 wide but 5 affiliated. Sure. So that's why there's so many. I think they're all good. This isn't a fluffy list.
No.
So like this is like a list I think is pretty decent.
It's fun, and it seems it's slightly different. Loads of people, like you said, have been quite down on Mystique and written her off. But actually, and I'm a big follower of your streaming and your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
And I've noticed you've been playing a lot of games there. And actually, you've been playing some of the against the meta baddies with this Brotherhood, and actually coming out, on the right end of it.
Yeah.
And is that enjoyable for you as well?
Oh, that's fantastic. I beat a couple of humans in the lunch meet thing, and that was great.
Yeah.
So anytime you can take a scalp with the terrible list, then that's good.
Fantastic. So when we came to the table, we rolled priority, and you won priority.
Mm-hmm.
You went with your own secures.
Yeah.
What was the thinking behind that?
I'd rather not play on pay to flips. I think it was as simple as that.
Right, that's fair enough, as you've just explained.
Yeah.
And of course, you were up against Servants of Apocalypse. Did you have obviously you played a lot of games, and you played a lot of games with, and I imagine against Servants of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
What was your sort of strategy and thought process around going into the matchup, but also the team that you had?
So my team was Mystique, Juggernaut, the Blob, Rhino, and Zemo. And I had Prio, which is obviously really beneficial because they're 2D shapes called hammers. And so I can just pick one and then load all my threat on the other side, which obviously is very good against Apocalypse, particularly because they don't want to stand in the midline.
No.
So I went and I double moved and picked up with Blob, who's fairly tanky because he gets to keep his money for the damage reduction.
Yes.
And then on the other side, I loaded Rhino and Juggernaut, so it's just like, come and stand there if you want.
Yeah, I actually, when I faced up against it, so my team, I chose 18 threat. We had a choice between 18 and 17, and as I've spoken a lot on the podcast, I am not interested in playing 17. I'm not interested in playing Toad. No. Sadly, my first 2 games today, which did go quite well, I had Toad, but I had priority.
Yeah.
But without priority, now he's just so fragile, and he doesn't have the same economy. So 18 was nailed on for me, and I went with Beast, Gambit, Magic, and Iceman. Mm-hmm. So I essentially had all my 3s apart from the Blob. So it's quite nice to see the Blob on the table. He's chosen his sides, and actually he was incredibly effective in this game.
Fantastic, yeah.
And I thought the reason I didn't pick him was because it's a DMAP.
Yeah.
And he's not particularly mobile. I mean, Apocalypse can make him mobile, but if he's holding onto an extract, obviously I can't do Celestial Technology. And I don't have the benefit that Mystique Brotherhood has, is that you've retained your power from picking up the extract.
Yes.
So if I was to double move with Rob and pick up an extract, you can punch me with energy or whatever, and he might go down because he's got no way to keep himself alive. Sure. But for you, it was the opposite. You always had that power online. And then when I hit him with Gambit, and I spiked. I spiked a few rolls in this game. He was able to survive. He took 4 damage. I think he rolled 1 block. I think he had cover, and then he damage reduced.
Yeah.
Suddenly he's 2 dice blocking 3. Yeah. Like, that's really good. Yeah. And he still took 4, so listeners he could have been one shot in that situation, right?
Most of the characters would be as well.
Yes.
And then he got to push Gambit away, so then the next turn he was only getting attacked once potentially.
Yeah.
So
and then when I tried to go at him with Apocalypse, by that point, some more of your fast characters, Zemo would come in, and you were able to sacrifice onto Zemo, which and I think that one whipped, and actually it put me in a really weird position where Apocalypse was on the point, but you had 2 characters on there, so it's a bit irrelevant, and I hadn't achieved what I needed to, because I tried to be this aggressive, hit you on the line, and this probably was my first lot of mistakes. You'd also been able to pick up the other midline hammer.
Yeah.
You'd pick that up with Juggernaut. I thought you were going to pick that up with Rhino. Why did you not?
Rhino is a lot more vulnerable to magic, who's on that side of the board, of course. And Juggernaut's actually reasonably good because he's got 5 Mystic defense on his front side. So Rhino's a sitting duck for magic. I've had magic one-shot him before, multiple times.
Yeah.
So I don't want him. It's normally you do that now with Rhino, but against magic, I don't think it's a good idea.
Well, I'm clearly playing on one level, you're playing on another, because I saw you deploy Rhino and I was like, wah, and I put magic down, and as soon as magic went down, you put Juggernaut down. It was almost like, right, you knew how you could almost bait my deployment of magic to then give yourself, because you had priorities, you had the agency. So you went quite heavily up on points, didn't you? It was 6-2 at the end of round 1. Were you? I imagine you probably weren't expecting it, but you knew you had the ability to do so.
Sure, I wasn't expecting that at all. But as the game panned out, it made sense in a way because you didn't want to go and stand magic in front of Rhino and Juggernaut, so you kind of had to almost let me have that one. It was the best start I could hope for. Basically.
Yeah, and then your first move of round 2, you just double walk Blob away.
Yeah,
and
into the corner.
It's just right into the corner, and I'm like, I've never seen Blob in the corner. Not unless it's my Blob and my opponent has put him there. But you were happy to have him there. He'd only had 2 health at this point. You know a single attack from either Gambit or Apocalypse is likely to finish him off. So if I'm going to do it, you're going to pull me out of position. And obviously you've got characters that are fantastic at rotating. And, to skip over a few steps, Blob actually never went down in the end. I think he took 1 more damage all game. And I ended up putting maybe 2 or 3 more attacks into him. Obviously, some of them were feeble attacks with Iceman, but Apocalypse tried once and failed. Yeah. His ability, powered himself up. His ability to reduce just meant that he had that staying power. And his positioning meant that I was losing points to chase points.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how the game went. Would you agree?
Yeah, pretty much. I was really happy with that Blob move, actually, because it's quite unusual just to disappear into the corner.
Absolutely.
With a slow model, because he's never going to get back to relevance.
Exactly.
But because he was there, it meant Apocalypse could come and kill him if he wanted to and pick his hammer up, and then that would be the end of Apocalypse for the entire game.
Apocalypse.
Yeah. He would just never do anything relevant. He'd have his 1 point and that'd be it, because it's on a D shape. So it was fine. If you wanted to, because the reason that I was able to do that was because he pushed Gambit on the first turn.
Yes.
Which meant that Gambit could no longer get in range to do it if I double walked.
Yes.
So it was.
No, it was really smart, and actually it was something I didn't necessarily see coming. I certainly didn't see Blob coming, which is quite surprising because he's quite a large man. And actually, that rotation and pulling him out was demonstrated because in the final moments of the game, and I'm desperately trying to get points back, I failed to take Blob out. One of my last activations is Apocalypse. I've just dazed Mystique and taken a hammer with magic, and then you finished her off with Juggernaut. Now Juggernaut's got 2 hammers. My only potential play to keep myself in the game is to essentially deal with Juggernaut. Mm-hmm. And I think I actually do some damage into him with Beast, and I'm hoping to finish him off with Apocalypse, and there's just no way I can reach him. Yeah. It's a bit embarrassing, actually.
I think so.
I can't remember how the score finished. You finished on?
I think it was 18-12 or 18-10.
I think 18-10 rings a bell.
Sure.
And I got a real lesson in the core mechanics of MCP.
Sure.
I had a bunch of cards left. Mm-hmm. Because all the cards in Apocalypse are all about keeping Apocalypse alive.
Yeah.
What happens when your opponent doesn't try and kill Apocalypse?
I don't want anything to do with that, man.
Well, exactly. And I should have had friends with magic, so I could sacrifice those attacks as soon as she picked up the hammer.
Yeah.
You were able to sort of push her out, so there was never within 2 of Beast, but for a long time, Beast was never there. So I was never able to protect her in that sense. No one really had the power on them in a position to recal either. It was never a good moment. And I was constantly thinking about these, and I felt like I was hamstringing myself by not just thinking about the core mechanics of how you move, how you use these cards that everyone has access to. And you were able to exploit that. Any final reflections on the game?
I think it was a really fun game. I think playing.
No, thank you.
I think the priority is a huge thing there, because if you have priority, then you can just kill something every activation with either Apocalypse or Magic. So it so heavily in my favor to have that in this game that I think that made a huge difference to the game.
I think I agree. I think I was lulled into a false sense of security that I was a good player after my first 2 games, which I'd won priority on. Well, thank you very much. I think I'm teetering around average. But I saw in my first 2 games power of priority when you've got such an amazing cannon in Apocalypse.
Yeah.
He goes last at the end of round 1, and then he continues to go first afterwards, and it really hamstrings your opponent's ability to score points. And what I found without priority against a team that was essentially keeping everyone out of range of Apocalypse is that my ability to rotate, it needed more finesse. It needed me to be thinking more about rotating than about attacking. And perhaps I leaned too much into the attacking and less into the rotation. I never once got a Celestial technology off, which
it's difficult to do in a D shape.
It is. Yeah. But either way, it was a really good lesson.
Yes, thank you.
And something I'll definitely take forward with me. So thank you very much, and good luck in the final.
Thank you. Look forward to listening.
And there, my winning streak comes to an end. It was about time. It was nice to be able to play Joe. And having earned the place to play Joe, for those who might not be familiar, Joe Hainstock or Joe Manji, as many will know him from his Longshanks handle, he really is one of the best players around. His name you'll see him in top 5 for most affiliations in Longshanks, if not right at the top, and competing with some of the best. So I think the last time I played him was in the round 1 of an event. So to play him in round 3 felt like I'd earned the place to play him. But like the last time, and maybe even the time before there, I was absolutely schooled. In this one, it was the first game I'd lost priority. And I really think this is where an area of my game that needs to improve. When I've got a team and I've thought about it and I've had lots of rep, it's muscle memory round 1 when you've got priority. And you just need to make sort of slight adjustments when sort of being cautious or wary of the opponent. But often that sort of muscle memory, particularly with something as powerful and strong as Servants of Apocalypse, it often can get you a points lead or
even just parity round 1 with potentially a day's character, or at least setting a decent days for round 2. But I didn't have priority, and I didn't want a lot of my sort of more squishier models on the midline. I brought fairly aggressive pieces to this matchup, thinking that his Brotherhood roster probably would want to be rotated and wouldn't be as fighty. So I thought, right, well, I'll bring my fighty models to finish them off. And I think, as a lot of players do, Joe was thinking 4 or 5 steps ahead. I was only thinking maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead. He had anticipated that I would be bringing some of my more attrition-y pieces, and he brought his toughest characters in the blob, Rhino, as well as Juggernaut, and was really, really smart with how he moved. And I just went down on points too much. I relied on my good characters to try and chase it. But Joe was a good enough player that once I'd almost handed him that lead, he was able to sort of protect it and run away from it. He barely put an attack from then onwards, maybe the odd attack with Juggernaut, but he wasn't chasing damage. He was chasing those pushes, and with the hammer it made it more likely, and rolling 2 lots of dice rather than just 1 lot. He'd done his maths, and it was a really, really good lesson in sort of playing to your outs when perhaps you know on paper might have the weaker side. He clearly demonstrated his prowess. But I picked myself up. A loss to Joe is not one to be ashamed of, and there's still 1 round of the event left. So and I think only 2 players can go 4-0. So if I can get a good strength of schedule and I can get that final win, maybe I can see myself on the podium. But we'll see. It's a tall order from now. But let's find out how I got on in round 4. So we've just finished our final game at the Sons of War event here in Cambridge. I was 2-1 going into the final round, so I thought pretty hopeful that maybe a win here might elevate me up into those podium spots. And I was really, really fortunate. My 4th round opponent to be my WTC and my nation's teammate, Dave Miller. Dave Miller, welcome to Cable's Conquest. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Yeah. And you're the TO for this event as well. So before we go into our game, well done, and thank you very much for putting on this event. It's I hope you'll agree. It's been a fantastic event. Seems really, really well run with 24 players. Talk me through sort of the history of it, the club. Give us a little bit of introduction to what the event is and what it's about.
Cool. Well, Sons of War itself, the club was founded by Andy and Steve. That's been going for 13, 14 years now. So there's some very well-known MCP players that have played here. Connor used to be a local.
Excellent.
Jonah was a local, so some big players that played it, and this really popular club plays all the different games, which is great. We've never run events before, and since we got into MCP and the community is so great and the events are so great, we were like, we want to see if we can chip in a bit.
Excellent.
And we're giving it a go. It's been amazing because the community is amazing.
How many events have you done so far? This
will be our 3rd. Yeah,
this is the 3rd. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And have you seen it sort of increase in size? And
it's gone from 12 up to 18 to 24, and we're just making
Multiples of
connections
6.
with the network, like networking almost,
Sure.
like with clubs that are closer to us.
Of course. Well, I've travelled up from London, and there was a lot of familiar faces in the room there for me today. But you also mentioned at the end there's several other clubs from sort of East Anglia area that have come and visited.
Yeah, Spalding Pathfinder from Peterborough, and then Tom Dix's club, and I'm going to forget the name, but they're Norwich based.
Excellent.
So it's been really nice to make the connection
Brilliant.
for them to come.
Well, for me, it was really easy to get to. In fact, actually, it took me less time to drive to your event here in Cambridge than it did to some events that in London where I live because of the public transport connection. So that was really, really pleasing. And yeah, be proud that you've hosted a fantastic event. Cable's Conquest will be looking forward to coming to another. Let's put that aside because we did meet, didn't we?
We did indeed.
In the 4th round. What team were you playing?
I'm playing the Crims, but instead Kingpin Crims, but instead of the very popular Shadowland Daredevil split, I'm playing Spider-Foe split instead for pay to flips.
And the thinking behind that is?
I'm not a massive fan of attrition.
Right.
So I would rather try and run around and use my Spider-Foes to maybe steal a cheeky extract.
Right. And I suppose there's a lot of characters that cross over between Criminal Syndicate and Spider-Foes. So actually as long as you've got a leader for Spider-Foes, it's quite easy to use your criminal characters in Spider-Foes.
Exactly.
And so obviously Kingpin is quite confident on most of the secures. I'm guessing then Doc Ock comes for pay to flips. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. He comes in, takes the lead.
Takes the lead.
The potato has a rest.
Because you don't want to be rolling dice with your attacks.
No,
Fair
pretty
enough.
much.
That makes sense, and clearly it's done you quite well. Because, you've gone 2-1 coming into the final round at this event. Who was your loss against?
It was against Joe Manji and his Brotherhood. So
well, also it was my loss as well.
Opponent, yeah.
Also my loss. And I'm here practicing my WTC roster. Obviously, Dave, you're on our WTC team.
Yep.
Are you also practicing your WTC roster?
Exactly that. Yeah.
That's
trying to iron out those kinks.
Iron out those kinks. Good. So it's nice to see you doing so well and getting onto one of these top tables in the final round where we met. You came up against Servants of Apocalypse. Before we started the game, well, we rolled for priority. I won priority and went with my secures, and we got Macran Crystal, your extracts. We got the unexpected wedding guests. What was your thinking when you were building your roster? What was your strategy going into Apocalypse?
I knew it was going to be tough, so I went with what I consider my toughest characters: so Abomination, Lizard, all the classics that everyone would think would fit that.
Lots of damage reduction, but also highly mobile.
Exactly that. Because I'm a Macran, I can jump around, I can flip the point, hopefully run a ring a little bit from APOC, but that's it's not always, especially on Macran because it's so compressed. But that was the thinking. Yeah.
So I mean, you've got really good ability to rotate. You've got lots of medium or large bases with medium move. You've also got great displacement with throws from the likes of Lizard and Doc Off. And, you brought Black Cat as well, didn't you? Like long move as well, puts her in good stead. So the plan seemed fairly strong going into it. So we went 19 threats. And there was a lot of chat, wasn't there, at the beginning?
Yeah.
That 17 threat. I've been talking a lot in our team chat that I hate 17 threat. I don't like bringing Toad. I'd had played 2 games at 17 threat today and done okay with them with Toad. So with that information going into it, you did choose 19. Why did you choose 19 over 17?
Mainly because I really wanted to try Abomination.
Right. Okay.
I did want to dive with him because I needed to, in my mind, try and get the points advantage early on, and then rotate away as much as possible.
Okay.
So I was prepared to take the risk to try and get the reward early on. And we'll carry on with that. See how that went.
So at 19 threat, I brought along Apocalypse, of course. I brought along Blob as my famine, Beast as my pestilence, and Gambit as my death. And then my upgraded character at 19 threat, my 4th threat, was Colossus, and he came as War. And with priority, the first move I did was I double moved and I picked up one of your home extracts. My thinking here was he'll take some damage because you'll try and take it off of him. I'll gain loads of tokens because he's War, and because he's Colossus, he'll survive it and hopefully take a lot of your activations out. Were you expecting me to dive?
Yes and no, because I mean, Colossus is a great character for that.
Yeah.
It does exactly what you said. It put a lot of pressure on me and forced my hand. Not necessarily 100% expecting it, but wasn't surprised to see it.
Sure.
And it had the effect that you wanted.
Well, you didn't respond straight away with attacks. You did your dive of your own.
Yes.
Abomination came in and dived sort of the opposite corner.
Yeah.
On one of mine home extracts, and he would have been in front of Blob, so not too much threat there. But of course, Apocalypse that sits in the middle of the table, and with a single move, Apocalypse was able to move on to that Macran, which you had flipped as well. Abomination has got 2 power. You picked up the extract, flipped the point. Abomination should survive that, right?
Well, that was
Apocalypse. Apocalypse has only got 7 dice.
In my mind, I'm like, well, stick A-bomb there. You do whatever you do. Not expecting you to activate Apocalypse, potentially.
Away, sure.
And then I would go with Doc Ock, set him up within 3 of A-bomb. So whatever really happens with A-bomb, unless it's an absolute disaster, he plays strategic retreat. So I'm kind of taking the gamble, but as safe as I could make it.
Right, okay.
But we were not expecting APOC to move up once, play, is it not War?
It's the War ability, Fury. Because he was able to get within range 2 because you'd dived.
Yeah.
He was able to do Fury. So while it was 7 dice, there was, if I could roll crits and wilds, there was spike potential. And unfortunately,
You spike.
Yeah.
So there was a one-shot A-bomb.
Yeah, I think I rolled 3 crits and a wild.
Yeah.
Those crits, well, it didn't matter as long as I didn't get skulls because the crits and wilds were converting them anyway. And I think on the 7 dice, I got 9 damage or something.
Yeah, it was.
Maybe you blocked 1 and damage reduction.
No, I don't think I blocked anything.
Right. I think
I blocked nothing, just damage reduction, and then it was enough anyway.
It was enough anyway.
Yeah,
which was pretty savage to lose your 5 threat early on.
It was an interesting start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from there, what was your plan to try and sort of, because we were still 4-4,
Yeah.
and actually to sort of maybe speed this up, Round two, at the end of round two, we were 8-8 as well. So you were keeping the points parity. Was that part of the game plan to try and keep the points parity, or were you trying to, maneuver a way to chase the points?
Well, ideally, I wanted to be just ahead and rotate because I was never going to get priority. And once APOC has started like that, he starts first round each time and he just deletes a character. Realistically, it's not, you don't really need great dice for him to, if he's double tapping someone, that's pretty realistic.
Yeah,
for him to delete someone. And so I did what I could, and it was a good lesson in trying to rotate and trying to mix it up. But it was a tough start.
It was, and I've got to say this. I've got to admit that while I felt like I'd made some good decisions in the game,
absolutely, yeah,
they were completely rewarded by some very good dice. We'll spoil the result now. It was a Servants of Apocalypse victory. I think it finished 21-10.
Yeah, it felt good until the last round.
I think it was 13-10 going into the last round.
It was Doc Ock was dazed. Everyone else was KO'd.
Yes, and Doc Ock was just by himself without any points as well. And I was able to flip all the points and collect all the extracts. There were moments in that game where my first attack would do nothing, and I'm thinking
he gave me hope.
No, the hope, and I'm starting to think, oh no, I'm going to let Dave back into this. And then my second attack did everything it needed to do. Gambit in particular was rolling his wilds that he needed to. Yeah. Were there any sort of MVPs for you? Any characters that you thought performed well, or is there any that, oh my gosh, they're getting drops? They're not coming to Copenhagen with me.
No, I liked all my characters. They did fine. As per usual, Rhino was probably my MVP. He does so much. He makes a bad day great, and if he's just doing good anyway, he's doing good. It's just
it was a strange situation when Lizard strategic retreated and gave him an extract, and then you robberied. Yeah, and it was a brilliant move because it threw Colossus into Gambit, did 4 damage to Gambit. It did leave him on 1, but it had displaced Colossus. Unfortunately, you couldn't pick up that extract. You'd already had one, but it kept the point wheel turning right. He is just so mobile, Rhino. I mean, unfortunately, a couple of spikes, and we saw the tail of it.
He went down.
But yeah, do you have any sort of final remarks on the game?
It's definitely something I'm going to think about, and I'm going to reassess my diving and maybe think about how I get ahead. Maybe play safer round 1, rely on my steals as the game goes on.
Because you've got a great ability to rotate, haven't you?
Great ability to rotate, great ability to do the steal.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you another time.
Awesome, thank you very much.
So, that's it. That's the event finished. And you've heard there from Dave. Dave was not only my round 4 opponent, but he was also the TO. So, one thing I set out to do for this particular episode was to interview all my opponents, interview the TO, and if I had time, to interview the winner of the event. So it was great to be able to catch up with Dave, not just over the tabletop, but also as a TO, and we heard a little bit there about sort of the history of the Sons of War event. And the community that's really growing here and connecting with other communities in East Anglia. Cambridge really is becoming a great venue and a great place to be playing Marvel Crisis Protocol. So that was really pleasing. But perhaps even more pleasing was the game. And really, really pleased to get a win. Dave is a really great player. And I have to say this, credit to Oliver and Dave, my round 1 opponent and my round 4 opponent. My record against both of these at events is appalling. Absolutely appalling. I think I might have beaten Dave once in events, but he's definitely got 3 or 4 wins on me. I think I've never beaten before this event, never beaten Oliver in an event. He's got 2 or 3 wins on me. And it took me bringing the absolute meta monster in the Servants of Apocalypse to be able to get my own back. So I think that's a real credit to these guys as players. On that final game, it was, I'd say there was a mixed emotions coming out. The positive, I was actually really pleased with how I played. I think Dave going for 90, it surprised me. I expected him. I've chatted so much about how I hate playing Toad, so I really thought he would go at 17. I don't mind as much as we saw in round 2 playing Toad, and this Crisis matchup was exactly the same as my round 2. And I don't mind playing Toad when I've got priority, because pick and choose which is the safest extract that he can then go and pick on. And on something like Guardian Save Sheer Emperor, he's really, really good at sort of jumping around and interacting with those pay to flips from 2. So I don't mind so much on this particular Crisis, but ideally I want to be avoiding playing Toad. He's such a liability for me, at least.
But Dave picked 19. He clearly must have seen characters in his own roster that he preferred bringing at 19. I think he spoke about wanting to bring Abomination, who for Spider Foes is not affiliated. So if he wanted his affiliated characters and Abomination, I think he needed to in his own words, he needed to go for 19 rather than 17. Abomination would just be another 3 threat instead, and he needed something with enough punch and enough mobility to play the scenario.
3-1. That's not bad. I'm really pleased with that. I certainly don't go 3-1 very often. I think the last time I did that was at Nation. It was a much larger event, but this one I'm equally as pleased with. Yes, I did bring the Meta Monster in Apocalypse, but yeah, really, really, really happy with 3-1. And I think we'll pause there, and we'll come back with some closing thoughts on the event as a whole.
I don't mind being wrong, as long as I can correct my mistakes.
So it's all over. The Sons of War event in Cambridge comes to a close. My record of 3-1, it had me in 5th place. But 5th out of 24 players is something I'm really pleased with. There were 2 players who slightly ousted me, who were also 3-1. Friend of the podcast, Dr. Norbert, he managed to squeak past me. We had exactly the same strength of schedule, but he beat me by 2 VPs overall. So well done to him. And then there was another player who I think had a stronger strength of schedule. I think they must have lost to the eventual winner in the final round. So had a stronger strength of schedule overall. And then the eventual winner was Joe. So Joe Hainstock, who we played in round 3. So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to catch up with him at the end of the event. I think we were running slightly over, and I was still chatting to Dave after our round 4, and they were all tidying up and stuff. But it was I did manage to speak to him and got some really, really good insights from him. Yes, he won the event with his Brotherhood roster, which was really pleasing to see. It's not a roster we see on the top tables very much, so credit to Joe for that. But overall, I have to say it was a really, really good event, and really, really well organised by Dave. He's really, really building something quite special there. It's in sort of like a scout hut in Cambridge, so there's an absolute ton of space. Every table had a chess clock. I brought mine along with me, but never needed to use it. Terrain was good. A really, really nice variety. I think a lot of the community, local community, has pitched in on that, which was fantastic. I don't think there are any more events in Cambridge this year, but Dave said he's really, really looking to try and make it once a quarter, and we might be seeing 4 events in Cambridge next year. So I think we'll certainly be trying to get down there. Well, so my aim for the episode was to practice for WTC. Do I think I got my practice in? Ultimately, I think so. There were a couple of auditions happening. First for Wolverine, and quite frankly, over 4 games, I think I played 17 threat twice, 18 threat once, and 19 threat once. So 17 threat and 18 threat, the 4 threats just don't turn up. So no consideration for Wolverine there. And at 19 threat, only 1 4 threat turns up. I think most occasions it's Colossus. I think Colossus is the option. He's tanky. He can help keep Apocalypse alive. He's got 2 of the best horseman abilities that he can choose from. He's quite mobile. There's just a lot going for Colossus in Servants of Apocalypse. And if I'm honest, had I got 20 threat, maybe on some similar crises, would I have gone with Wolverine, or would I have gone with Psylocke? Or would I have gone 6 wide and played all my 3 threats and Toad? I'm not sure I would have done that. I'm not sure I'm brave enough to do that. But I think I would have brought Psylocke. So not really an audition for Wolverine, but if Sabretooth was there, would he have been played? I'm not sure. So the jury is still out on that 10th character. Whether I get some more practice, whether I talk to some people, I'm not sure. I think if Wolverine stays, I think I probably try and bring Fastball Special in as one of the tactics cards. Because the more I think about it, the more I think if I'm forced to play on Mayor Fisk, whether that's at 16 threat or not, I think actually having Colossus and Wolverine and Apocalypse as 3 characters that probably quite 2 of them being stun immune. Colossus, he likes that central, he can bodyguard. And Apocalypse can make sure he's always in the right place. So there is method to Wolverine, similar to how there was method to Sabretooth, and actually I can start to see why he might edge out Sabretooth. Does that mean he'll ever get played? Maybe not. I think it really, really requires on the right scenario, but I think that's quite common for a lot of people's 10th characters. So we'll see. I've got some time to stew on it. The tactics cards,
I mean, I bring the same 4 tactics cards, and then the 5th depends on the characters. So Immortal Servants, Brace for Impact, Sacrifice, and Recalibration Matrix. They came in every single game. I didn't use them in every single game, but when I did use them, they were really, really useful. And I can't see them dropping out. Quite often the option then was Warpath, but also I can see value in that 5th card being Survival. I don't have priority, and I'm against a high attrition side. Often if Apocalypse has just been dazed, he probably has 6 power, and actually that's 6 power well spent if it stops the KO or stops any damage going on to him that next round. But similar for the other characters, just keeping them alive can be huge. So Survival and Warpath feel very good. I have tried the first one in a few games, and it feels a bit gimmicky. It can be game winning, I think, but it's often more of a win more tactic. When you're in a position where you're willing to remove a character to get another activation out of Apocalypse, it's usually because that's getting you over the line, getting you to 16 points, or it's because you're being quite desperate. So I'm actually fine. It's less useful. Journey Through Limbo, stable to Magic and fantastic card. Silent Constructs, perhaps not stable to Psylocke, but if I really, really want to sort of do the damage, being able to make someone Gambit's Attacks Mystic, or even Beast Attacks Mystic with the rerolls could be really useful. So, there's space for it. Maybe it drops. And Weapon X program, it was there for Sabretooth. It also could be played with Wolverine. Again, maybe that drops for Fastball Special. I am rambling, but the Crises, I think I'm fairly happy with Crises. I think all the pay-to-fips I'm quite happy with. Macron, yes, I know I'm vulnerable against those fighty teams, but often if those fighty teams are going taller than me, then I've got some real mobility, and actually I've got some fairly tanky characters. And with the cards, if they're not focusing on Apocalypse, you can use them on them, and they're just as powerful in keeping, Recal can keep Magic alive. Brace for Impact can keep Gambit alive. So, all these cards which you would normally say for Apocalypse, if they're not focusing on Apocalypse, then they're fair game. So yeah, really, really like the secures. Don't think they're changing. And then the extracts, well, I'm just avoiding 17 threat. I've got 2 non-civilians to try and avoid humans being Terrigenesis, and then Skrulls is 20 threat. And I think when I can bring on my toys, perhaps I can go toe to toe with them. But we'll see. But it was good. It was good to get the practice, and it was a really, really good event. Well, before I ramble any further, I think we'll call it there. It's been a strange episode. We haven't had the usual host. We haven't had Cable to join me. It is certainly a much odder experience, sort of talking alone, talking into the void. But it was a really, really enjoyable experience to get the interviews with different players, to get the interviews with the TO. And then hear their insights and just do it sort of slightly different. In fact, the main reason we did this podcast, the main influence was from our Middle-earth background, is the Entmoot podcast, where Harry Parkhill in that will interview his opponents. That's his bread and butter. And maybe this episode sort of emulated that a little bit more. But sadly, and nowhere near as professional or clean. But it was good fun nonetheless. And a big thank you to all the people who spoke to me. I suppose until next time, keep up the conquest.
The name's Cable. Remember it.